Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Courtroom Insider. It is the last day of June 2025. I'm Nate Eaton. Thanks so much for being here. We kind of have a big show tonight. Not sure if you've heard, not sure what we'll talk about. Actually, we have a lot to talk about. Normally, if we didn't have a big interview coming up with Lori Vallow Daybell, we would talk about the big news that broke just this afternoon that Brian Kohberger has accepted a plea agreement. He will no longer be going to trial, a trial that was set to begin in just a few weeks. In exchange for pleading guilty, the death penalty has been taken off the table. He will serve life in prison without any possibility of appealing that plea agreement. So the victims' families received notice today. We're going to talk more about that on Wednesday when this hearing is going to be held in Boise. We won't spend really any time on that tonight, but wanted to keep you updated on that breaking news. Also, the horrifying news in northern Idaho yesterday with the firefighters who were ambushed and killed while responding to a fire. It has been a very, very busy few days for news here in eastern Idaho. But I want to thank you for spending your time here with me tonight. And I want to know where you're watching from. And if you have any questions, you probably will have some questions by the time tonight is done. By the time the program is here, we have set up an email address, questions@eastidahonews.com. Send in your thoughts. Ask questions as you're watching this interview. We will try to get to as many questions as we can tonight and tomorrow about my interview with Lori Vallow Daybell, because I want to answer as many as I can and would also love to know what you think of the interview. Be honest with me. I've heard so much from many of you that you aren't happy that I'm doing this interview, and many of you are thrilled that I'm doing the interview. So let me just kind of set the stage as to how this interview came to be. By the way, if I didn't say it, tonight, Lori Vallow Daybell is here on Courtroom Insider. I actually started communicating with Lori back in 2020. I reached out to her on the tablet when she was in the Madison County Jail in Rexburg. Inmates communicate via tablet. And I even sent her a letter in the mail, and she never wrote me back. In fact, the money that I put on her account to respond to me, she used, but I don't know who she used it on. Actually, I probably do know, her husband, Chad Daybell. And that happened back in 2020. I continued to go ahead and make contact with her, try to make contact with her, to the point that I sent a letter through her attorneys on the day she was found guilty in Idaho, and nothing. Well, after she was transferred to the prison in Pocatello, I remember one morning I was on a walk and I said, I'm just going to reach out to her again and see. So I set up an account. I sent a message. I said, I'd love to talk with you on or off the record. Let me know. And I sent the message and didn't think anything of it. That was like on a Tuesday or Wednesday. I then, that weekend, my son and I were going away for a boys' weekend away. And I told my wife before we left, I'm like, finally, for the first time in years, I can go away and I don't have to think about Lori Daybell. Because every time I'd go out of town, something would break in the case. My son and I left town, had a good Friday night at the arcade playing, go back to the hotel, go to sleep. I wake up in the morning, I look at my phone and it says, you have a message from Lori Vallow. And I'm like, what? And it wouldn't open on my phone. And so I had to grab my computer and open it up. And Lori said, hi, something to the effect of, hi, Nate, I would be willing to talk with you as a friend off the record. I'm telling all you this now because she has told me I can share certain details. Many of you, that off the record is something that reporters use to maybe get a source to open up a little bit more. It's information that we promise not to divulge to the public if it's off the record. If it's on the record, we can divulge it all. And often reporters will go off the record to try to build a relationship with someone, like I did with Lori, to try to get more information maybe, or to try to use that information to go investigate or get something like that. And so Lori and I proceeded to talk. She said, I want to talk to you as a friend. We had never met, but we were frequently messaging. And it was, to be honest, the messaging back and forth was pretty bizarre. It was like we were old friends, and we talked about her recipes, her buttercream frosting that she makes on cupcakes, and it was just a little unusual. And she asked me to come and see her. at the prison. No cameras, no phone, just to go meet with her because she needed me to do something for her. And so I made the request. She wouldn't tell me what it is. I made the request to the jail and to the prison, and you have to fill out a form and they have to approve visits. And in the slot where it said, tell us how you know the inmate, the resident, I said, we met in Hawaii because we did. And my request was denied. And Lori wasn't happy about that. She went to the warden and told the warden, Nate Eaton needs to come and see me. And the warden said no. Lori and I continued to communicate. She was then moved to Arizona, and our communication became less and less frequent. I would reach out to her. She would see me in court. And that's just kind of where things went. Well, then a week ago Friday, I have an app on my phone that I use to communicate, not just with her, but with other inmates. It's kind of weird, I guess, but it's my job. I get a message from her out of the blue. Oh man, you all are sending in questions like crazy. By the way, Peggy Jepson, our comment moderator, Peggy's here. Everybody say hi to Peggy. She does a great job reading your questions and sending in your comments. So far, 37 of you have sent questions. I hope we can get through these all. Let me tell you what Lori sent me a week ago Friday. Caught me off guard. She said, okay, so if we, mind you, we had not communicated in like 6 or 7 months. And she said, okay, so if we do an interview, will you play the whole thing unedited? How will that work? And will you bring me M&Ms? We had talked about M&Ms in our first conversation when we were kind of getting to know each other, like what's your favorite candy and things like that. And she said M&Ms. I believe she said peanut M&Ms. So I wrote back, shocked. Okay, yes, we'll air the whole thing unedited, which I would have done anyway. And let me give you the caveat. I am going to air the whole thing unedited tonight, but I am going to fact check after the interview. I have a list of claims Lori made right here that I'm going to fact check for you. I went on to talk about how I could come in person, how we could do the interview on Zoom, whatever, or through the tablet, whatever she wanted. She wrote back, after being sick for so long, I could really use M&Ms. And then we talked about scheduling. And then she said, let me know what times work best for you. And we just kind of went back and forth. She wrote me, let me tell you how this works. I reached out to the PIO, the sheriff's office. Lori gets so many messages. She tells me she gets so many messages from people all over asking for interviews. Lori actually has to tell the jail, I want to interview with so-and-so. She has to give them her request. It's not like anyone can set it up with her. She has to request, because I asked the jail and they said, no, she needs to request it and she hasn't requested you. So I told her, you need to go in, you need to request me. So she did. And then she said, I will request with my sergeant an interview on Thursday at 11 for 1 hour and an interview on Friday at 11 for an hour. She wanted 2 hours. I would like to cover living with autism, living with chronic illness, pancreatitis, cruelty of the family court system, women facing the death penalty, unfairness of the judicial system, strengthening women through family tragedy. Let me know if you are still interested. Well, of course I was still interested, but this is my interview with her, not her interview with me. And I thought for sure we can touch on some of these topics, but as you'll see tonight, we did not touch on really any of them, or very few. So Monday comes around, nothing, no word. Tuesday, I get an email from the jail saying, your interview with Lori Vallow Daybell will happen Thursday at 10 a.m. You have 30 minutes. You have 30 minutes to set up and 30 minutes for the interview. We immediately started to book flights, arrange travel, and we were on a plane the next night, Wednesday night. We went over to the jail on Thursday morning. We did set up, and in walked Lori. Now, in the room with Lori, with me, Lori, our cameraman, Jordan, our photographer, Jordan, the amazing, extraordinary Jordan, who fixes everything, a producer who I'll tell you about after the interview, Lori's private investigator, Jeff White, was there, her paralegal, Anna, was there, and then the PIO for the sheriff's office, along with 2 deputies from the jail. They were all in the room, and nothing was off limits. There were no topics off limits. The challenge as an interviewer with someone like Lori is maintaining control of the situation, asking questions, and not dwelling too long on one topic, because she will. And you'll see tonight that I had to bounce around to topics, otherwise she would have sucked up the whole time. And that's what I did. I bounced around from this topic over here. Also, you want to be courteous. You want to be professional. I know many of you have said, why didn't you punch her in the eye? Why didn't you punch her in the face? Why would you bring her M&Ms? Which I did. And you'll see what happened with the M&Ms at the end of the interview. Also, another element to all of this is that we were doing the interview on Lori's birthday. I did not know it was her birthday until the night before. So you will see I did wish her a happy birthday in the beginning to try to disarm her. And you know, different people have different interviewing tactics. I know many of you are going to, after this interview, are going to write me and say, you are a pathetic interviewer. You were too soft on her. You let her get away with this. I've heard it. Believe me, my neighbor came over a few days ago and said, why would you interview her? And I explained it to her, and we're still friends. But the reason I interviewed her, for those of you asking, is I'm a reporter. It's my job to ask questions. It's my job to try to figure out what people are thinking. Is she going to give me the honest truth? Probably not. No, she didn't. I believe she was honest in many of her questions. I believe she was not. I know she was not in many others. It's my job to ask questions. Now, it would be irresponsible of me if I had her on every single night. But to interview her once now, to get this, and then maybe go in depth down the road, perhaps. I don't know. We'll see. So that sets it up how it all came to be. Now, I think we'll start. I'll go ahead and play this. Again, if you have questions, if you have comments, go ahead and send them in to me. This is my interview with Lori Vallow Daybell. Again, unedited, without any sort of breaks or anything, from the Australia jail in Maricopa County. Hi, Lori.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
You ready?
Yeah. Are any of my people here? Oh, okay. Hi.
Good to see you.
Great. Such a pleasure.
Have a seat. And
Long time coming, huh?
it has been. Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
So I want to start with Chad.
Okay.
You told me years ago.
Today is my birthday.
Today is your birthday.
How old do you think that I am?
52.
Oh, how did you know?
I do my research.
You must know a lot.
Yes.
The girls are like, are you turning 25 in my pod? And I was like, no, I'm turning 25 plus 25 plus 2.
There you go. So
Do the math.
You told me years ago Chad was the best man you've ever met.
Chad is a very kind person, yes.
Is that still true?
Yes.
So besides his spirituality, what else attracts you to Chad?
He's a wonderful person. Everyone who knows him knows that. You've never met him, right?
I haven't met him, other than when we were in Hawaii.
I'm saying you never met him, talked to him, interacted with him, or...
No,
Yeah.
no. How often are you able to talk with him?
So we aren't really speaking.
By your own choice, or just because it's not allowed from like prison to prison?
Yeah, like the way that the mail works here is very difficult.
I see.
So we're only allowed to get postcards. Like you can't send a letter to the jail itself, and so there's difficulties within that.
But you still love him.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you've said you'll be exonerated, and he will too.
Absolutely, we will.
Will that be before he's executed?
Yes, Nate, before he's executed. You're well aware, I know that you are LDS as well as I am, right? And you're well aware that the 3 Nephites in 3 Nephi 28 were given the death penalty 7 times. They were arrested after Jesus personally translated them, okay? They were arrested, convicted, and given the death penalty 7 times. And where are they today?
I don't know.
They're still wandering the earth.
Yeah.
They didn't get executed.
So
they didn't get the death penalty. And there's 220 people in this country who have been on death row and have been exonerated and gone home.
Do you think it'll be soon then?
I think it'll be in the Lord's time. I know that it will be in the Lord's time. And when you say the word soon, if you've ever watched The Chosen or dealt with Jesus at all, you know that soon is a relative term because 1,000 years are a day to him.
So does it bother you, though, that in Chad's trial, he blamed it on you and Alex?
So now that I know the judicial system and now that I have been my own attorney and how things work, and, I've said this before in an interview, it's so different what goes on behind the scenes in a high-profile case. Okay? There's strategies going on, there's defenses going on, there's all these things going on that you wish, why can't we just go in and tell our side of the story? The attorneys are like, you can't do that. We have to come up with the defense, and we have to do this, and we have to do this, and why don't we just go? Why isn't it? You thought, if you've never been in the judicial system, which I hadn't before, you thought they get to tell their side of the story, what they think happened. You get to go in and tell your side of the story of what happened, and then the jury gets to decide. And that's not what happens. That's not what happens at all. And it's so sad and disappointing that that's.
So you think, Chad, they had to come up with a defense just to have one in court? You don't think he really believed or blamed all of this on you and Alex?
Absolutely. And I know that for a fact because John Pryor came and told me that prior to trial.
He did. He said, this is going to be our defense.
He said, I'm going to blame you, and Chad doesn't want me to, and he wants you to know that. And this is the kind of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that nobody sees, that nobody knows what's going on. There's so much stuff going on that you wouldn't even believe all the things that go on. The experts that are being paid, the things that are going on. We got this expert, we paid him $1 million to say the opposite of whatever your expert's going to say. What do you mean they paid him? The state paid an expert $1 million retainer to say whatever the opposite of what our state, what our witness.
In Arizona or Idaho?
In Idaho. Was what our witness is going to say. And the attorneys told me this, and I'm like, are you kidding?
But you didn't have any witnesses.
We did. In the buildup, we did.
But then
we absolutely
didn't call them.
Well, there's reasons for that there's strategies involved, there's things going on, and you have no control when you have attorneys.
And that's
They're doing it how they want to do it.
And that's why you wanted to be your own attorney.
There's several reasons. The number one reason was because they wanted me to sit here for 5 years while they got to know the case. And I wanted a speedy trial.
Can we go back to Hawaii? When I first met you and Chad.
And we didn't meet. You just put a microphone in my face.
Okay, when I put
Now we've met.
We have met, you're right. Why didn't you just tell me where the kids were?
Because I was not ready to talk about it at all at that point. I was just not ready. It was very traumatic, and I was not ready for any of that.
Are you ready to talk now?
I have talked about it already, yeah. I feel like a lot of things have happened in these last 5.5 years to give me strength through that tragedy that happened with my children. And I've been a lot more open in being able to talk about it now, and through therapy also, some post-traumatic stress therapy, because it's traumatic. And I'm living in here with some beautiful, intelligent, smart women. And had I never come to Arizona, and I know God put me here for a purpose, because I didn't think Arizona was going to come and get me. In fact, I think you and I had a talk about that, because there was an article that came out in Idaho saying that Arizona was not going to come and extradite me until all my appeals were finished. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. And I think, and then my
it's
appeals.
Like the next day that you were gone.
Yeah, the next day they came and got me. And my appeals attorney was supposed to come, he had an appointment that day when they came to get me to drive down from Boise to Pocatello for us to have a meeting. And they didn't even tell him I was gone. I was just gone that day. They came the next day. So I didn't think they were coming.
You mentioned a tragedy, and you said that this has all been a family tragedy.
Yes.
And it has been a huge tragedy.
Absolutely.
All of this.
Absolutely.
4 juries have said you and Chad and Alex caused the tragedy.
Yeah. That's the judicial system.
But how do you argue with that if all of this evidence came out that showed, that you, Chad?
The only evidence that ever came out is the evidence state wanted to put forth.
Well,
they manipulate the evidence to make it look however they want.
But you
And
could
guess who
present
helps
evidence.
them? The media helps them, because from day one, when someone called you, okay, day one, whether it was Detective Hope or Detective Hermosillo, I'm not sure, called you and said, hey, Nate, Eaton, this is going to be the biggest story of your life. And they got that information from Heather Daybell. And Heather Daybell and Detective Hoper are connected, right, because their kids got married. And they called and she said, oh, I have a story for you. These people killed their spouses so they could get married, which was totally a rumor,
I don't think
totally
that's true, Lori.
untrue. And then you ran with it and you got famous from it, and everybody knows what happened from there, right? So that's the way it goes. So the media put out their narrative. They kept on with it. The state went along with it. The state leaked stuff to the media to say what they wanted.
What's false about the narrative?
Oh my gosh, everything.
Your children were found dead in Chad's backyard. That's not wrong.
That's
Tylee was chopped up and burned. That's not wrong.
No, that's all mixed up. That wasn't.
I saw photos of JJ wrapped in plastic and duct tape. That wasn't wrong.
Okay. I understand what you're saying of those facts. Those facts in and of themselves are wrapped around a whole lot of untruth.
About how they ended up there.
Correct.
So if Tylee killed JJ and then felt bad and committed suicide, how did she die first?
She didn't.
She didn't?
That's part of their whole fake narrative. That's
Who burned her and chopped her up?
That's part of everything that they were doing. So I don't really want to get into all of those details with you because you obviously are very set in your mind. I'm not here to change people's minds.
I want you to change my mind. I'd love to hear any evidence or facts you have that might make me think, you know what, they have it wrong, but I haven't heard anything otherwise.
That's because you've been pushing this narrative for 5.5 years. Do you not telling me that your mind is not set on what it is already?
Minds can change.
They could change
Right.
if they're open to change.
Right.
Okay, so miracles are on the way. And you remember I asked you to watch a movie?
Yes, Evan Almighty.
I did. And did you watch that movie?
I did.
And did you identify yourself with the reporter in that movie?
I don't know if I identified myself with. Did you identify him with me?
Yes, absolutely.
So what does that mean?
Okay, so when did the reporter change his mind?
Remind me.
When he was floating in the flood on the ark. Okay, not until God showed the miracle did his mind change. His mind was like, this is a crazy guy. He thinks he's like Noah. Why are you so crazy? He's pushing the narrative, right? He pushed the narrative, pushed the narrative, pushed the narrative. And then the flood came. And he's the first one screaming. And he's screaming and he's running for the ark because he had been pushing this narrative the whole time, right? This fake, false narrative that this guy was crazy, that God didn't talk to him, that all these things have happened, right? That these weren't God things that happened, okay? So then he's the first one to get on there screaming, and when he's floating down the river on the flood is when his mind was changed. So when you're open to changing your mind, I will be happy to enlighten you to the things of God.
Well, I would love to hear what
sure
you
you
have to
would.
say. I wish we had more than 30
I wish
minutes.
we had more time too, because
Okay.
we could really get into it.
A couple of more questions for you, and then I know that you have some things you want to say. The night before Alex died, he told Zulema, I think I'm their fall guy. Was he?
No, absolutely not, and I don't think he ever said that. I watched Zulema go through probably 13, 14, 15 hours of detectives grilling her. I've watched the interviews. I've watched them all. And I watched her be berated by them, threatened by them, that they're going to arrest her, that she had a part in this, that she's a co-conspirator, and all this stuff until they got her to say exactly what they wanted her to say. And she made that up. She made up a lot of stuff. And I felt bad for her because I didn't want her arrested because she wasn't part of any conspiracy, because there wasn't any conspiracy. And I felt really bad for her. I do love Zulema.
Did you and Chad have anything to do with Alex's death?
No, absolutely not. We were very surprised. No.
What were you and Chad and Alex doing in the storage unit moving the tire and the seat back and forth on the day that Brandon was shot at and the day after?
So that's so silly that is. So there was stuff in my garage that I was starting to move into the storage unit. That's what we were doing. And so I moved that stuff in there.
But the tire on the Jeep?
I moved stuff that had been in there, it was just sitting in there. It had been sitting in there. So I didn't have enough room to park. So I couldn't carry it. It was heavy. So I had Chad help me put it in. And the next day, Alex was like, where's all that stuff in the garage? And I was like, I went and put it in the storage unit. He was like, oh, I need that. So we went and got it. And that was it.
Can you see how, let's say you're not here. Let's say you're
Sure.
at home and you find out about this story and you do all your research. You go through all the court documents. You watch the trial. And you're watching another woman going through exactly what you're going through. Can you see how it sounds kind of crazy what you're saying? Like the fact that this was all a coincidence, or you were just moving stuff in and out?
Yeah, because the narrative has trained the people.
But
The
if you
narrative
did
has
your
trained the
own
people.
research.
The narrative has trained the people. I have people come up to me all the time in the jail. I know everything about your case. I've watched everything. And they have every fact wrong.
But aren't you in
So-
isolation? Are you able to talk with other inmates?
Yeah, you have no idea what it's like in there. Okay, I'm in max security. I'm in PC, which I didn't choose to be, but they put me in there for safety reasons.
Tell me what PC means.
So, protection.
Okay.
Yeah, you have
Protective
to-
custody.
Protective custody, yes.
Okay.
And so I'm in a max pod with all the other women that are max. So there's like 8 women in my pod that are facing the death penalty. Okay, we're all in rooms in there, and we are all in there 23 hours a day, and we get 1 hour out a day to take a shower and clean our rooms, and that's how it is in there. But all of our doors have openings so we can talk to each other even through the doors, and so yeah, so I'm not isolated. But when I am transported to court, like for my 2 trials, right, I'm with the women all day long that don't normally see me. So I'm friends with everybody in my pod, but other women will shout out to me that, oh, I know everything about you. I know everything about your story. And they've been so indoctrinated by the media and their narrative that they put out. And nobody was asking me what's happening. Nobody asked Chad
I tried
what was
to.
happening. Well, would you have listened then? You have to.
Absolutely. I wish you
You
and
need to be on the boat, Nate. Are you on the boat yet? Because when you're on the boat, Nate, I am going to be happy to share all this stuff with you because miracles are on the way.
I wanted to
Miracles are on the way. And when you're on the boat, that's why I sent you that last
video.
message. Well, I sent you the last message saying, when you're on the boat, you'll be ready.
So
When you're on the boat.
you say Jesus is your friend.
Absolutely.
Does he support cheating on your spouse?
We weren't cheating.
Does he support killing your husband?
I didn't kill anybody, ever.
Killing your kids?
I didn't kill anybody.
Killing
as you
your
know.
boyfriend's wife?
Okay. Was I in Hawaii when Tammy died? How did I kill her? Are you going to explain that to the world now? How did I do that?
Using your kids' money while they're dead.
Okay, all that is messed up too. That's all lies.
How did you rent that unit in Hawaii?
That's
With what
all
money?
lies. Chad rented it. I did not
Chad
rent
didn't
it.
have any money until Tammy died.
Chad rented it with his own money.
Okay.
Chad was an author and a publisher and had his own company.
So
that's what I'm saying.
He
You're
made $30,000 a year with
No,
that
but you're
company.
giving up facts that you don't. You're giving up whatever the state put up. They don't put up the whole story, Nate.
And that's-
They just put up tiny pieces to put together their own narrative. That's it. You don't know anything about our lives or how they were or what we were doing in the temple.
Yours-
What we were doing in the temple every single day.
While you were in the temple, while Tammy was still alive, you were in the temple with Chad.
Several times, yes.
Right. So he's married to Tammy.
Correct. Tammy came to the temple with us too.
The 3 of you.
At some points, yes.
How many times?
Probably twice.
When is this narrative going to come out? When are you saying the full story is going to come out? Like your side, what really
So
happened?
I have written, I'm writing it, and I'm going to write out every single thing from beginning to end so that people can really understand, because you can't understand what happened with Tylee and JJ unless you understand what happened to Tylee in her life. You have to know Tylee's whole story from beginning to end. And when you know what happened in Tylee's life, you start to understand. The understanding, the lights click on. But nobody has said that. This lady got up in Idaho. It was 1 year after I had been arrested, and it was going to be Tylee's birthday. And there was a lady in Idaho Falls, and they were having some kind of vigil, and it was on the news because I was in a pod by myself at Madison County, right? And I'm watching the news, and this lady comes on, and she says, oh, you know, it would have been Tylee's 18th birthday because she died 2 days before her 17th birthday. And she said it would have been Tylee's 18th birthday today. And if Tylee were here, she would be out with her friends, and she would be singing and dancing, and she would be doing all these things. And this is a lady who has never met Tylee, never knew her, never knew anything about her life or our life. And I was like, do you know how many of Tylee's birthdays we spent in the hospital with her screaming in pain while she's on morphine, and the morphine isn't enough to take away the pain.
Wait. Are you really blaming this all on Tylee?
No, absolutely not. I'm saying Tylee had a really hard life, and people don't
So
understand.
how does that tie into her death and your son's death and Charles being shot and Brandon being shot at and Tammy's death?
Okay,
Her
all
illness.
those things connected, right? It's a domino effect. So in 2017, I was told by the Lord that I was going to become like Job and lose everything. Will I do this job if I lose everything? And so this domino effect of things happened. This is all the Lord's doing. And guess what? He's going to come forward and tell it all. And I don't have to. But I am writing it all down for posterity. I am writing it all down because you know what he told me? You know what Jesus told me? He said, this is going to be real good scripture reading in the future. So if you go back and you read the scriptures and you find all these stories that were going on, what do you think is going to happen? These are the last days, right? We believe that. You believe that, right?
When can I get a copy of this? Because I want to read it.
But you're gonna, the whole world's gonna get to read it. I'm working on it. I work on it every day. Jeff's like, what are you doing in there all day? I was like, I'm writing, it's coming to me, I'm writing.
When you were on trial in Idaho, didn't you say that Jesus was going to be back before the end of that trial?
Okay, who said I said that?
I'm asking you, did you say
No,
that?
absolutely
You never said
not.
that.
I have never, Chad has never, we've never given a date or a time. The prophet,
Where'd July 20th
somebody
come from?
made that up and put it on there. I have never said it. Chad has never said it. We've never had a date. We're going with what the prophet says. When President Nelson gets up and says, these are the last days, we need to prepare for the second coming. We need to gather Israel on both sides of the veil. That's what we were doing. That's what we were working on. And we wait for his timing. The Lord has his own timing. He's never early. He's never late.
Why has
His
Chad been
timing
excommunicated?
is great. So I think that was false too. That was mean. That was mean.
To excommunicate him?
Absolutely.
Are you still a member?
As far as I know.
Okay. So Lori, if you could go back 6 years ago,
Yeah.
June of 2019,
Okay.
would you change anything that's happened over the past 6 years?
Oh, that's a good question, Nate. I don't think I could because
could.
we were foreordained to do this mission, right? The Lord is using Chad and I right now, and this is what he's told us, as instruments in his hands. What do you think he's trying to teach the people, especially his people? His church. What do you think he's trying to teach his people right now while he separates the wheat from the tares? He has to have an earthquake. It has to be so detrimental. It has to get everybody's attention. Our case has done that. And what is he doing with that divide? He calls it, you know what Jesus told me? He calls it the great divide. What do you think he's doing with it?
I don't know, but
He's teaching people not to judge. Don't judge something. You weren't there. You don't know what happened. Don't judge. That's what he's doing. And he's separating the wheat from the tares right now in his own house. And he's using Chad and I to do it.
So what if you end up going to Pocatello in a few weeks
Yes.
and spending the next 30 or 40 birthdays
Right.
there behind bars?
That would be God's will, but I'll tell you right now, that's not going to happen.
It's not
It
going
is
to happen.
not going to be 20 or 30 years. No, it is not going to be 20 or 30 years. I will testify to that right now.
So if it's not, how about we meet every year on your birthday and we do a follow-up interview and you can give me the timeline?
Absolutely. I don't have a timeline other than what the prophet has said. Did you watch conference? This last conference? Did you watch it?
Are you able to watch it in here?
No, but I was
Did
at
you
the
read
prison. At the prison, I was able to listen to it because on your tablet you have AM/FM radio, so you can listen to the
okay.
whole thing. So I got to listen to it the last time before I came. But they did have one. They have one. I think it's a 2023 conference on our tablet here. So I've watched it over and over. But all the prophets, all the apostles, everyone in the LDS church is saying, prepare. Gather Israel on both sides of the veil. I was going to the temple. I went to the temple every day for like 3 years. I was doing all Charles' family's work. I was doing all my family's work. I was gathering Israel on both sides of the veil. And Jesus came there. That's his house. And he talked to me. And he told me that he needed me to do a mission for him. And this is what we're doing. And the media has turned it all around. But it was supposed to be. You know, there's always a Judas. And I almost used to think of you as the Judas.
Me? Was I on the dark list?
No, but this is what I'm saying. There's a Judas. People think that Judas is a villain. And Judas is not a villain. You know what Judas was? Judas was a vessel. Judas was a vessel for God's plan to come to fruition. And he told me the other day, it's coming to full fruition.
God did.
Yes. So when we are, just like he told Noah, who was what? Steve Carell in the movie, right? So God came there and talked to Steve Carell. Is that true? In the movie?
Yeah.
And the media guy didn't believe him, right? This guy's crazy, right? God didn't talk to him, didn't tell him to do it, didn't tell him to build a boat, buy all those lots, make his wife mad, spend all his money, build a boat, because that whole thing was going to get wiped out, right? So God has told me lots of things, and this is one of the things that he told me. He's using us as instruments in his hands to separate the wheat from the tares.
Did you ever think...
And people are choosing. Do you know how many people have left the church over our case, which, what does our case have to do with the church? Nothing. It has nothing to do with the church. We're not against the church.
Did you ever think you'd have the title of convicted serial killer?
No, do I?
Well, for people...
I mean, I guess you could technically say that, but everyone in the world knows that I didn't hurt anyone. I've never hurt anyone in my whole entire life.
Well, years ago, everybody I've talked to, your friends, family, say you were a great mom, so much fun, loved to dance, loved music, loved to travel. You were the light of the party. And here we are in a jail. How did you get from there to here?
God put me here for his purpose. And so you know who he needs? He needs somebody who's the life of the party, somebody who teaches the girls how to work out, somebody who teaches the girls how to have fun and dance and do all those things in this, the worst jail in the country. He needed somebody to come in to the worst jail in the country and strengthen these women. And I'll tell you what happened. We used to have this wonderful lady, and she used to come in, and she's from mental health. She used to come in on Tuesdays, and she'd be down there, and she's blonde, and she's really cute, and she's really fun. She's bubbly like me. And she would come down there, and she'd try to get the girls to work out and give them coping mechanisms and talk to them about stuff like that. And half of the girls didn't like her. They thought she was annoying, and they were waking her up and stuff like that. Because you know why? She wasn't one of them. She wasn't one of them. But you know what I have? I have 7 lifetimes. I have worse
So you're on your
punishments.
7th life now?
No. I'm saying I got 5 life sentences in Idaho.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah.
I've got another one here and another one here
I was
pending.
talking about the multiple probations.
No, I'm talking about
your sentences for...
I'm sentenced to 7 lifetimes right now, basically.
Why didn't you tell all this to the police?
So...
Why didn't you tell them all this when you were arrested? Explain this to them. You know, God's told me to do this. Give your defense.
Really? What happens to people when they say God told them to do something? They lock them up.
Well,
I'm locked up.
Well, whatever the reasoning, if you really did think Tylee was responsible for this, why don't you tell the police? She had chronic, pancreatitis. JJ had autism. All of these things.
All of these things.
Why didn't
she
you tell
was sexually abused by her dad from the time she was 3 years old and forced by family court to go to him for 10 years. You don't think that was hard on her? She was in the hospital all the time. She had chronic pain.
Why not tell the police all this?
At the very beginning, or what are you talking about?
Whenever. I don't think you've ever talked to a cop, have you?
You know when I called the cops? I called the cops 2 times in my life. Guess what happened to me? I called the cops when I was pregnant with Colby, and his dad had beat me up, and I had a black eye, and I was thrown down the stairs, and I was 8 months pregnant. You know what they did? Nothing. They did not help me. And the second time I called the cops is when Colby was 10 years old, and we were at church, and we came in the car home, and he told me how Joe had molested him, and he didn't want the same thing to happen to Tylee. She was only 3 years old. Okay? I called the cops. And guess what I did? I called them and I said, hey, this stuff happened. I don't know what to do. They said, we don't care. Call the county where it happened. So I called that county and I told them the whole story. Like, my son just came to me. He's 10 years old. This happened, blah, blah, blah. They said, we don't care. Call the county where the perpetrator is living. So I called that county and I said, this is what happened. And nobody would talk to us. And then the county finally called me back where it had happened, where we had lived previously, and they said, okay, come in tomorrow, bring the kids in, and we'll forensically interview them, okay? So we did all that. I did everything that the cops asked me to do. And then when I was in there, they said, after they met with Colby, they interviewed him for 45 minutes, they interviewed Tylee, they came out, they said, Colby met all the criteria we use to prosecute, and we're gonna prosecute him, and we're gonna keep your kids safe. And then they did nothing. And Joe hired a criminal attorney, and they did nothing. And he never got indicted, and nobody ever even looked him in the eye and said, did you rape your children? And for 10 years, the judge told me that if I didn't take Tylee to him every other weekend and 30 days in the summer and every Thursday night, that she would put me in jail. If I was late for one visitation of dropping her off at a dad who was raping her in the middle of the night, that I would be put in jail if I didn't abide by that.
Did you have anything to do with Joe's death?
No.
Did
Joe,
Alex?
No. We didn't even know. We were living in Hawaii. We had come back. Tylee was forced to go to him for 10 years by the courts. Hated it. Came home and cried, screamed, kicked, hit Colby, hit Cole, hit Zach, scratched him, yelled, threw things through the walls, was a nightmare, had night terrors, never slept at night. Tylee never went to sleep before 3 o'clock in the morning. She's 5 years old. She can't go to sleep. I have to stay in bed with her till 3 o'clock in the morning rubbing her back because she can't sleep because bad people wake you up in the middle of the night to do bad things to you, Mommy. And so Tylee was a nightmare. Charles thought she was a brat. I didn't discipline her. Then I was in the hospital with her watching her scream and writhe in pain while she's on morphine because it doesn't work.
I've interviewed several jurors. You may have seen the interviews.
I haven't seen any juror interviews, none.
And
I have no access. I'm in here 23 hours a day. I'm in max security. We don't have access to anything.
Well,
so I haven't seen anything for a year and a half since I've been over here.
They've said they were disappointed that they wanted to hear from you, that you didn't have a defense, especially in Idaho.
Okay, let me ask you a question. If I get up on the stand and Trina Kay's sitting there, or
Rob
what's
Wood.
her name? Lindsay Blake, Rob Wood, right? And they're sitting there. Are they going to let me tell Tylee's story on the stand? You know they're not. They're going to object every 2 seconds.
If it's relevant to the case.
I'm writing it out. No, they won't, because they don't want me to tell that story because it's opposite of their narrative. It crushes their narrative. It crumbles their narrative.
But
it's never going to be what it is.
As a defense attorney,
Yeah.
you present your defense. So you would have witnesses that would come in and would testify to the things you're saying and would give
I
evidence
love it,
to
Nate.
that.
You're just as naive as I was, and I love it. Because guess what? I found out as a defense attorney. This is what happened with Judge Boreski. This is what happened. They don't let you put on a defense. Do you know how many motions I had on, or not motions, do you know how many exhibits I had on to get ready for us to present our case for the first trial?
How many?
We had 33 exhibits. We put them up there. Trina Kay went up there. She gets to look at all your exhibits, right? This is how it works in law. She gets to look and see what all our things are, what we're putting up. Guess what I had? I had about 5 interviews with one of the cops who said, I have to get Lori on something. I have to find something to charge her with. I have him saying this on video.
Which cops?
Okay, Detective Moffat. Guess what happens? So I have 4 of those are my exhibits. I'm waiting for Detective Moffat to get on the stand. The state says they're going to put on Detective Moffat. Guess who they don't put on at all?
Moffat.
Detective Moffat. They go around you, and then the judge didn't let me put in one exhibit, not one.
What if you had
He didn't let me put one exhibit on.
What if
not
you had
one.
waived your right to a trial, though, and given your legal team another year or so to go through all of that? Don't you think that would have helped your case?
No, not at all. Because guess what my team said? They said he wouldn't have let us put it on either. There's so many jobs, so much political aspiration going on behind the scenes in a high-profile case. There is no way in heaven that they were going to let me get up there and win as a pro per client. Because you know what? It's like a virus in here. Do you know these girls that are treated so bad by their defense teams that are making $1.5 million a year while they sit here for 8 years, 10 years waiting to go to trial? There's girls in here that have been in here for 10 years. Do you know what happens when you have a toothache in this jail? They pull out your teeth. So tell me how it's not prejudicial for you to go into trial with 5 of your teeth missing and you look like a homeless person and the jury's there judging you, right? And because you've been sitting in a jail that doesn't have any dental for you for 8 years waiting to go to trial.
You mentioned a virus. Were you really Hold up. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. Computer froze up. Let me see if we got it. Here we go. Let me rewind it. Sorry about that, everybody. Here we go.
There's no way in heaven that they were going to let me get up there and win as a pro per client. Because you know what? It's like a virus in here. Do you know these girls that are treated so bad by their defense teams that are making $1.5 million a year while they sit here for 8 years, 10 years waiting to go to trial? There's girls in here that have been in here for 10 years. Do you know what happens when you have a toothache in this jail? They pull out your teeth. So tell me how it's not prejudicial for you to go into trial with 5 of your teeth missing and you look like a homeless person and the jury's there judging you, right? And because you've been sitting in a jail that doesn't have any dental for you for 8 years waiting to go to trial.
You mentioned a virus. Were you really? Okay, hold up. Sorry, there must have been a glitch. My computer's yelling at me. I'm gonna finish this. Sorry, I promise this wasn't planned. Somebody has hexed my computer. I wonder who. Here we go, everybody. I believe this is where we were at.
Go around you, and then the judge didn't let me put in one exhibit, not one.
What if you had
He didn't let me put one exhibit on.
What if
not
you had
one.
waived your right?
Called you. She called you through.
I didn't talk to detective.
For Detective Moffat to get on the stand. The state says they're going to put on Detective Moffat. Guess who they don't put on at all?
Moffat.
Detective Moffat. They go around you, and then the judge didn't let me put in one exhibit, not one.
What if you had
He didn't let me put one exhibit on.
What if
not
you had
one.
waived your right to a trial, though, and given your legal team another year or so to go through all of that? Okay, everybody, hold up. For some reason, this program, I apologize. How unprofessional of me. Let me get in the actual program and play this for you, play the rest of the interview. So, what are your thoughts so far? By the way, if you're just tuning in, we will post the whole interview without any gaps or whatnot that you can watch when this is all done. Let me make sure I see where we're at here. Sorry about that. I have it here. Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts so far, everybody. I think this is where we're at. Let me pull it up here. Giving you a peek behind the curtain with here. We should start right here. And we're good. Any remorse? Any apology? Anything?
Bad about anything that's a really broad question.
It is a broad question. About the past 6 years. Any do you feel bad about
Do I
those?
have bad feelings about anyone?
Not bad feelings. Do you personally feel bad or feel some remorse for the victims in these cases?
None of the people are victims. So
Are you the victim? Is that what you're
No,
saying?
I'm not saying I'm a victim at all. I'm not saying that at all. I'm an instrument in God's hands. The victims that you call victims are not victims. Tammy died of natural causes.
The coroner disagrees with that. The coroner
Which
said,
coroner are you talking about? The one the state put on?
Brenda died, the county
Okay.
coroner,
Okay.
who said she was asphyxiated. So aren't her kids victims?
Okay, no. Do her kids feel like they're victims? No, they don't. They understand the truth. But let me
What
tell you
about her
something.
siblings?
Let me tell you something about Brenda Dye for a second. Let's go back to that because you said the coroner, and that is not even a true
She
statement.
originally ordered it as natural causes. You're right.
Oh, thank you, Nate. A fact,
But
a
then
true
they
fact.
Then they
Okay.
exhumed her body the day before Alex died, which
Okay.
looks suspicious with Alex's death. They exhumed her body, and they said no, she had the marks.
Did you hear what you just said?
What?
Looks suspicious. Who exhumed her? Why did they exhume her when she had a natural death?
So you're saying
Why did they exhume her when she had a natural death? What was the explanation for exhuming her when she had a natural death from the coroner? The coroner said it. Why?
because you and Chad were under investigation, and they thought that you all might have killed her.
Why? Because of Heather Daybell and what she said at the very beginning and called you up to say? That's
Heather-
exactly where you're getting
Heather
it.
Daybell
That's
did
where
not
you're
call me.
getting
Heather
it.
Daybell
I
did-
didn't say she called you. She called you through Detective
I didn't talk to
Hope.
Detective Hope at all.
Did you talk to Hermosillo?
I don't remember talking to Hermosillo. The tip I got when you were in Hawaii was from none of those people.
It was before we went to Hawaii. It's before you went to Hawaii. How'd you get a tip
We-
before you showed up in
we-
Hawaii?
we-
You obviously had a tip before you
We
showed up
found
in
out
Hawaii.
about this case
Yeah.
when the police sent out a news release. And then somebody random, I still to this day don't know, and I swear to you, to this day, we got a Facebook message from an anonymous account with a GPS location of where you and Chad were. I
Someone
swear to
did
you.
not. No, you were in an interview with someone. I did see a tiny little piece of an interview. I think you had Hermosillo and someone in an interview, and they were saying, didn't someone call you up and say, this is going to be the biggest story of your life, Nate Eaton?
Oh, a police detective did tell me that. All right, but it's not.
Who was it?
It's not the people that you named. It's a source. So
You're not going to tell me your source, but you know everything about me, but you're not going to tell me your source.
There's a lot I don't know about you, Lori. Back to the question of you don't feel bad. You're saying none of these people are victims.
I feel
Kay and
bad, of
Larry aren't
course.
victims. Brandon's not a victim.
No. No. I'm not saying that people haven't had hard things happen to them in their life. Everyone has hard things happen to them in their life, right? The judicial system plays up the victim thing pretty big, right? We've seen it happen. The people who lost their children, I lost my children. I lost them.
But people, because of what you did.
What did I do to them?
You arranged with Alex to conspire to kill them.
No, I did not.
And
Absolutely
Chad.
not. Absolutely
Did you
not.
know that they were in Chad's backyard?
Absolutely
Or
not.
did
No, I did not know that. I did not know where they were. Alex told me that he was put them in a safe place. That's what he
So
told
did
me.
you find out at the court, at the first trial? Is that the first time you'd seen those autopsy photos?
Yeah, I hadn't ever seen them. I never looked at them before that.
Okay.
Because that's not how I picture my children. I know where they are in heaven. I know what they're doing. They have come to visit me. So I don't see them as bones. If anybody dies and you go to a cemetery and you dig them up 9 months later, you're not going to like what you find. It's not going to be
They're
pretty.
not going to look like that, Lori. They're not going to
I'm
look
saying
like Tylee.
anybody isn't going to look like that. I'm saying once your spirit leaves your body and goes to heaven, okay? Because I died, right? When I was giving birth to Tylee, I died. And my spirit left my body. And guess what happened? When you're out of your body and you're your real self and your eternal self and who you are, you could care less what happens to your body. I've had that experience. Chad's had that experience. There's others that have had that experience. So the body dies. Everyone's dying, right? We're all going to die. Our bodies are all going to go back to the earth where they were from. And we carry on. We move on. So my children are in their eternity. They're doing well. They're happy. They're moving on. They don't want me to be sad. They came to me because they don't want me to be sad. They said, Mom, you didn't do anything wrong.
I've got one last question for you.
Sure.
There's a lot of people that say I shouldn't have interviewed you. Well, they don't know I've interviewed you, but they say that you don't deserve a platform because of what you've done, what you've been found guilty of. Do they have a point?
In this unfair judicial system, anybody could be found guilty of anything. And I would tell to the people, I would say, be careful who you're judging, because anybody could end up in orange. You could be living your little life in the suburban bubble like I was, and anybody could end up in orange. Anybody, because they can turn this on anybody. There's women in here, beautiful, smart, intelligent women that have had their children die, and they're family tragedies, and they're not crimes, and the state has turned them into crimes, and they're not crimes. And what I got accused of and convicted of, just like the 3 Nephites, what crime did they commit that they got 7 death penalties for? What crime did they commit that they got 7 death penalties for? I'm in good company. I'm in good company, and in heaven I will be in their company. And I didn't do anything that deserves this kind of punishment. But God did want me here. He did want me in here with these women. And He wanted me to lift and strengthen women and uplift them in these family tragedies. There's women in here that have suffered the same things I have. They've been here for years, waiting to go to trial. They haven't even gone to trial yet. But it's an unfair system, and they probably will get convicted. And then we'll see each other at the prison, and we'll uplift each other there until Jesus comes. And when He comes, He's going to set everybody in the prisons free. And all those who are unjustly and wrongfully convicted, like me and like these others, we will be walking free on this earth, and we will be walking with Jesus, and that's what we're going to do.
Okay, I have 15 cards, but I'm getting the wrap. So thank you, Lori, for chatting with me, and maybe we can chat again
Maybe
another
we can
time.
do it again sometime.
Okay. Thank you. Happy birthday.
See ya.
M&M's. Can I have an M&M? No? Are you guys going to meet me? Yeah.
And there she goes. She did not get the M&Ms. Many of you were saying you were having audio issues. If you were, go ahead and refresh your screen. Go ahead and refresh your computer. There is one part that I'm going to try to get for you right now that about, shoot, I don't have it here. You know what? I will play it tomorrow. It's about Lori being sick. That's where my audio glitched. For some reason, that clip had an issue. I apologize to you. I will have it for you tomorrow. I asked her if she was really sick in court, and she responded. There is another clip. I have to tell you that I was not included, but I think after watching tonight, I think I'm going to show it to you tomorrow, because what happened was about 20 minutes into the conversation, one of Lori's legal team arrived. And so we paused the interview while she came in to get situated, but our cameras kept recording. And the interaction with me and Lori in that 90-second window was pretty interesting. Uh, Pretty interesting. I debated because it wasn't technically part of the interview showing you, but I will show you tomorrow. Half of you are angry with me. I know. I'm getting your emails. You're furious that I talked to her. I get it. I get it. You don't have to watch, and I understand. I respect that. Half of you have lots of questions because my email won't stop blowing up. But my apologies, I don't have that clip for the sickness. I've not that we edited anything out, but we've been cutting up different versions to put on YouTube and whatnot. And I've had a couple of shows reach out to talk about this. What I want to do now is fact check. Now, this is not everything. I'm going to go through these quickly. This is not everything in the interview. Because some of the questions and fact checking, you can check on yourself, and I don't want to spend the time. But let me just go through this quickly. I gathered 30. There's probably more, and I know many of you out there are so smart. You'll probably go through 100 and send them to me. Yes, it was her 52nd birthday. That is true. Communication with Chad not allowed, and postcards. That is true. They only are allowed postcards in and out of the prison, and in and out of the jail. And because Chad was a co-conspirator, no communication was allowed. So that is a true statement. She said that 220 people on death row have been exonerated. Partially true. Since 1973, 200 people in America have been exonerated. That's from the Death Penalty Information Center. She said that John Pryor came to her and told her that I'm going to blame you and Chad doesn't want me to. I do not know if that is true. I can't comment on that. She said the state paid an expert witness $1 million to be on a retainer. That is false. Her attorneys wanted Lori to sit for 5 years in Arizona to review the case. That's true-ish. I don't know about 5 years, but her attorneys in Arizona definitely wanted more time to defend her. And that's when Lori said no, and her old attorneys withdrew from the case. This new team came on when Lori was appointed to represent herself. She said that Detective Hope in Hermosillo called me after calling Heather Daybell. I wish I would have pushed back on her more on that. That is adamantly not true. In fact, I don't think I spoke with Hermosillo till this case was done. I mean, he was so careful about not talking to the media. Detective Hope, I never spoke with about it. Heather Daybell, we spoke, but I reached out to her way into this process. So that is not true. She said the state leaked stuff to the media. I wish. These prosecutors were not leaking anything. That is false. She asked if I watched Evan Almighty. True-ish. I watched it last night. I told a fib there. I told her yes, that I had watched clips of it. I honestly couldn't find it and had no interest in watching it until I did the interview. Believe it or not, told my wife, I'm like, we need to watch this. And so I did. She's like, you can watch it. I'm not watching it. She said that Zulema didn't tell the police that Alex said, I think I'm their fall guy. She did tell the police that. That is true. Lori is in max security, the protective custody. That is true. In fact, tomorrow, after this interview, we went to a cell and a pod, and they let us in. And tomorrow, I'm going to show you our little tour of the jail where she's at, where they go for outdoor activity, the conditions. She said it's bad. That is true. It is bad. And I'll show you around tomorrow night. We're going to do another Courtroom Insider. She said 8 women are facing death penalty in her pod. I put an inquiry about that. I have not heard back. I don't know if that's true. It could be that the 8 women could be awaiting trial, and if they're found guilty, they will face the death penalty. So it doesn't mean they are facing it. If they are, they would go to prison. So that's semi-true. Chad, I said he made around $30,000 a year. Based on my research, that is true. That's not where they were staying, in $1 million townhome complex in Hawaii. Believe me, I went there. It's gated. You can't get in, and they're pricey condos. She talked about Tylee having pancreatitis. From what I've been told, Tylee did have pancreatitis around 8 episodes in her childhood years, but after she moved to Hawaii, she never experienced another episode. She could get hospitalized for several days at a time, and it was painful. So Tylee did have pancreatitis. JJ did have autism. She said she never gave a date about the end of the world, that her and Chad didn't. And I'm pretty sure it was July 20th of 2020. Maybe that was something Chad said. She said that she was thrown down the stairs by Joe when she was pregnant. I don't know if that is true. She talked about Detective Moffat saying that he needed to get her on tape for something. I don't know if that is true. She talked about that they'll pull your teeth out in jail if you have a toothache. I don't know if that's true. She talked about the medical care not being good in jail. I don't know. She said Tammy died of natural causes. Tammy was originally, the coroner did say that she died of natural causes after they exhumed her body. They changed it. The ME in Utah actually ruled it as asphyxiation. Can you hear my phone buzzing? I'm sorry if you can, because that's you asking questions. Tammy, Heather Daybell talked about that. Autopsy photos of the kids in court, they were shown, and she said that that was the first time she had seen them. I have some pretty reliable sources that say that that's actually true, that she refused to look at them before going to court. She said that Lori said that she died when she gave birth to Tylee. Family members have told me they had never heard that before. Lori's church membership not being excommunicated. It is true that Chad has been excommunicated. I said that. We've seen the letter. He's been kicked out of the church. That's what that means. Her membership is, I don't know. The church doesn't confirm membership records with individuals. She did move around a lot, so that could not be true or true. She did say that I'm LDS. I am LDS. She did say that President Nelson is gathering Israel. That is true. She talked about the 3 Nephites with the death penalty. I don't know about that. She talked about Colby and Tylee abuse. I'm not going to get anywhere near that tonight. I will tell you, I spoke with Colby Saturday. I did give him a heads up that this was coming. I spoke with Larry and Kay on Saturday to let them know. I reached out via text message to Tammy Daybell's family in Utah to let them know. And I had good conversations with all of them. Other than Samantha's family, Jason and them, we weren't able to touch base today. They've been traveling and I've been busy. Again, there are other claims in that interview that you can fact check and look up. And I will be playing more on that tomorrow. I will go back to that and I will try to get the audio fixed. And we'll also post the entire interview where without any breaks or my commentary. Now, I do want to pause for a minute because I get a lot of attention, but this guy, Jordan Wood, our camera photog, he packed all of that gear, found a production house in Phoenix to get us gear so that we could shoot this. We took suitcases, we got sandbags to set up this interview, and Jordan did amazingly well setting this up. He was nervous. We were told we had 30. He was nervous because this was a big interview. He was nervous because we had 30 minutes to set up, and I said, I want it done in 20 so we can be ready. And I mentioned I had a producer who happens to be my wife. She came along, notice her behind the camera pointed at me, holding my blue phone, taking pictures. You can see behind her, it was the guy in the plaid shirt is a jail sergeant. Next to him is the PIO, and next to him is another deputy. And then Lori's investigator, Jeff, is there in the white by that one camera, the center camera. He was the one who she kept looking at. But I want to thank my wife for coming in there. And guess what? Tomorrow night, she's going to be here to give her thoughts about Lori and the interview and the whole experience. And Jordan will also be here to share their thoughts. And we will talk about that, plus a lot more. Now, I have to give a huge shout out, newspapers.com. Your questions are coming up, and I have a preview about some future Courtroom Insiders. But for now, newspapers.com has been such an incredible supporter of East Idaho News and Courtroom Insider. They hopped on to sponsor us during the last trial. If you haven't been on newspapers.com, you know what I spent time over the weekend doing? I looked up Chad Daybell. There are so many articles on newspapers.com about Chad Daybell in the early days of him being an author. In fact, when he was in college or high school, he won some award. They called him Chad Ding Dong Daybell or something like that. There's not much about Lori, but they have, if you're big into crime, you got to go to newspapers.com. You can get a 7-day free day trial, or newspapers.com/Nate. They're giving 20% off to all of you. This is a special link through July 31st. I found a contest that my mom entered in 1987 in West Jordan, Utah. All I did was type in her name, and this contest came up. She won 50 pounds of sugar. I sent it to her. She didn't know that she won. So maybe if they're watching the grocery store, I forget what it's called, she can get her 20 pounds of sugar. You can search crimes, you can search family history, whatever you want to search. Newspapers.com. Thank you for sponsoring Courtroom Insider, for being such a big supporter of us, and for being here. We have a lot of interesting Courtroom Insiders coming up. I want to show this to you. Coming up tomorrow, we're going inside the jail. We'll have reaction from Erica, from Jordan, from you. I want to hear what you thought. Again, I put out that email earlier, questions@eastidahonews.com. We'll also check in with some others, people, to see what they have to say. Then on Wednesday night, Brian Koberger will be in court that day. We'll talk all about his plea agreement, what that means going forward, and maybe some other Daybell stuff. Thursday night, prosecutor Rachel Smith is coming here to East Idaho. She will be in our studio. She wants to take your questions. If you have any questions about Lori Daybell, about the death penalty, about other cases, Rachel can answer them. We'll be here. We'll take your questions too. Next Thursday on the 10th, Dior Coons. It will be 10 years since he vanished. Dior Coons is a story that I think about, if not every day, every other day. It's been 10 years I've thought about this kid. He's my daughter Emmy's age. He vanished 10 years ago this week while camping with his family in the remote Idaho wilderness. East Idaho News was brand new, and to this day, he hasn't been found. No one's been charged. We don't know where he's at. We're going to look back at the past 10 years and see if there are any new leads today. So join us on the 10th of July for that episode. The 17th, we will have a special report. I've been working on this for weeks and months. Things keep coming up. I hope you'll tune in for that one. It's a really important topic that has been extremely eye-opening to me. And we're going to go undercover, and we're going to bring it to you on the 17th of July. Then on the 24th, that's the night before Lori is sentenced, I will be back in Arizona. So we will cover her sentencing that night, and then the actual sentencing is on the 25th of July. So mark every Thursday in July. Plan to be here if you can, live on the East Idaho News YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed, please do so already. We'd love to have you subscribe so that you can follow us all along and be here with us when we bring you Courtroom Insider. We can't do one of these without remembering these people. I know I just gave Lori 40 minutes of my time and 40 minutes of your time, but we really should give these people 40 minutes. JJ Vallow, Tylee Ryan, Tammy Daybell, Charles Vallow, Brandon Boudreau. It would be incredible. Wouldn't you love to sit down with the 5 of these people? Fortunately, with Brandon, we can, but if we could sit down with Charles and see what type of a guy he was, with Tammy, it'd be fascinating to sit and talk books with Tammy, and ducks. Every time I see ducks now, I think about Tammy. And Tylee, who would be a young woman right now, working, going to school. JJ would be in his almost teen years, or in his teen years now, going into middle school. Charles would be doing his business, continuing to succeed. So tonight we remember these guys: JJ, Tylee, Tammy, Charles, and Brandon. And we can think of them, and hopefully their legacy, their missions can live on. Okay, I think we're ready for your questions. I do want to take a selfish minute and tell you that 10 years ago tonight, I was so nervous. Nate Sunderland, my colleague, was here, and Corey McHugh, our developer, was here. I think it was just the 3 of us, because on July 1st of 2015, East Idaho News was born. So tomorrow is our 10th birthday. This was me going home after our first day. Erica got us a bottle of sparkling apple juice. And you can see Emmy was like 2, and we had sparkling apple juice in the kitchen. And then in our front room, we had just moved into a house. Those were our chairs with packages. And there's our little guy, Everett. And it's our birthday. And in 10 years, I never dreamed we would be where we're at tonight, all because of you. I kid you not. I don't say that to flatter you, but I cannot thank you enough for your support. Even when I interview convicted killers in prison. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting us. I told our team, Robert, an hour ago, I'm like, I have all these people that are asking me, do you have any East Idaho News shirts left? It's our birthday. We have a few left. Maybe we should give them something. So for till tomorrow, 20% off all East Idaho News swag, eastidahonews.com/shop. Our team will package these up over the next 3 or 4 days. If you order directly through our site, order through our website, not our third-party site. We will send you these shirts. I might even include a little note in all of them. And hopefully you can sell us out of our shirts. But just thank you for supporting us and being so wonderful. There it is, eastidahonews.com/shop. Okay, here's your questions. I'm not going to get to all of them tonight. We're going to do a question extravaganza tomorrow. Peggy, did you email these to me? Because I have so many emails right now. Stay with me, guys. Stay with me. I'm scrolling. Okay, here we go. Shout outs. First of all, shout outs to Jill Jensen, Annie Southam, Paul Sorensen, Kelly Smith, Carrie Ann, Shelley Lewis, Karen Ricketts, Bill Jenkins, Don Moore, and Susan Sanderson. Thank you all so much for watching. We have people watching in Costa Rica, Sydney, Australia, West Branch, Iowa, Rigby, Idaho, Auburn, Alabama, Argentina, the UK, Richmond, Virginia, where my heart always is, Scottsdale, Arizona, and New York City. Thank you all very much for watching. Okay, here we go. Question number 1. Nate, how come Lori had to wear handcuffs with Dateline and not with you? That is a good question, Ruth. I was told that she likely would be in handcuffs, leg shackles, and that there might be a desk or a table in between us. But when she came in, she didn't have on handcuffs. I did not want a table in between us. I would much rather not have any barrier between me and a subject that I'm interviewing. I think that, there can be, you can read into the, nonverbal communication of having a table of power, structure, whatever. I was glad. And also, I had heard that we wouldn't be allowed to mic her up, because in the jail suit, if she's cuffed, you can't really mic someone up. I don't want to touch her. I also was told we couldn't touch her or shake her hand. She reached out, we shook hands. So we got a boom mic, thanks to IE Productions, who loaned us that mic very last minute. They came through with us. And so that's why we had that boom mic on her and I had a mic. But anyway, I don't know why she wasn't in cuffs, but I didn't have anything to do with that. Betty says, Nate, you're doing a great job. I have a question for you. Would it be possible for you to interview those affected by what Chad and Lori did, like family and friends of the victims? Yes, Betty, I have done that. I've done that. I've done that frequently throughout the years. If you're new here, you can go to our YouTube channel. We have over 1,000 videos on our YouTube channel associated with this case. And you can find interviews with Tammy's siblings, with Kay and Larry, with Colby, with the detectives, with the prosecutors, all that. There are more people I'd love to interview. I've got a list of about 5 or 6 in my head. And I'm hoping that those can happen. But I also understand if they never want to talk. And I respect that. And I'm not going to harass them because, this has been a long time coming and we're kind of in the wrapping up phase, maybe. Nate, what happened to the house and the land where the children were found? The house was torn down last fall. The land is still there. It's now owned by a nonprofit. And they hope to turn that into a place of healing and peace. And they hope to have that, I don't know what the plan will be from here going forward, but the house is no longer there. Why are we talking about, and with Lori, I don't get it. You are a good reporter. Well, thank you for that, for being the good reporter part. I think I kind of explained why I talked about Lori, and total honesty, transparency, kind of full circle for me. I talked to her in 2020. Or 2019, no, 2020. And now it kind of is a bookend of both sides. That was the beginning and that was kind of the end. And there we are. Will Lori come back to Arizona for her appeals? No, most likely not. How the appellate process works is that the attorneys file all the paperwork. It works its way through. There's not like hearings like we see now with, well, she'll go and present herself. She'll be assigned an appellate attorney. She will not be her own appellate attorney. And then it's possible, maybe, at least this is how it works in Idaho. It's possible that perhaps on the very last hearing before the Supreme Court in Idaho, she might be able to come, but I doubt it. Gina, my question is, at any point during your interactions, did you get any inkling of guilt or spark of remorse or sadness in her eyes or mannerisms ever? No, I did not. Trish asked, do Chad and Lori communicate? I think we talked about that. They don't, as far as we know. Jeffrey says, did she flirt with you, Nate? I think so. I think a little bit, or she was friendly. Maybe she was flirtatious. Nate, did she have a black eye? A lot of people have asked me that. In person, I did not notice it. I know on the video, it looks like she has something wrong with her eye on one side. But I honestly, I didn't notice it. And if she did, some people have mentioned that her mouth kind of droops on one side. And she did during the Dateline interview too. I don't know if she has some sort of Bell's palsy or something, but yeah, I didn't, have time to ask her. Lori, I want to know how you felt when she walked through the door. Were you nervous at all? Yes, I was nervous. I've told people I don't really get nervous in interviews, and I was nervous. Because I didn't know how it was going to be. You see how she is. You don't know what Lori's you're going to get. I mean, I organized my cards. I had the blue cards, which were like, get to these questions, and the topics. Chad was at the top, and then orange cards. And then I highlighted like preference. And then I'm like, this is too complicated. And then the pink cards were what Lori wanted to talk about, which I put at the bottom of my stack and never got to. And then I had yellow and green. So I had this whole color coded system, which, about 15 minutes in, I kind of just went with the flow, but so yeah, I was nervous. If Lori's granted a new trial in Arizona, will she stay in Arizona until the new trial? I thought she wanted to leave ASAP. I don't know if she's going to be granted a new trial, but if she is, I imagine she would stay there. Yes. And yes, she does want a new trial. And yes, she wants to leave desperately. So it's kind of a contradiction and all that. Tess, how did the interview affect you mentally? And did you feel like you got all your questions out? If we had talked another hour, I don't know if we would have gotten anything more out of it because, she doesn't tell the truth. And so we got 40 minutes and I didn't get all my questions out. Absolutely not. I could have asked her 2 more pages, but I don't think we would have gotten anything of substance. After mentally, we were all exhausted. We went to a barbecue place, which was just mediocre, to be honest. It wasn't like an amazing meal. And then Erica, my wife, was supposed to fly back. I dropped her off at the airport and her flight got delayed and then canceled. So she ended up staying an extra day. Jordan went back. I think he took a nap. I was exhausted. We were all pretty tired mentally. I also didn't sleep well the night before. Lisa, you're always so professional. How hard is it to keep your mental health positive when covering cases like Lori Vallow? It can be very hard. The trials were the hardest mentally in my career. That Lori's trial was probably the hardest thing I've covered consistently. Normally, when I cover these type of stories, I can do something fun. An hour before I came on the air tonight, I was at an ice cream shop surprising a guy who did a good deed. That's fun. I can balance out the good and the bad, and I try to bring some balance. But sometimes things can get heavy, and then you have to unplug. Tammy says, I've been following you since the beginning of the case. Will you please do a tour of the Pocatello women's cell block where Lori will be housed? Honestly, the last time you went there, the warden made it sound like it's a country club for prisoners. Please tell me she won't have a cushy camp life after what she did to her whole family. I would love to go in and show you, but cameras have not been allowed. I can make a request again. I have toured there without a camera. It's not a country club. It is a prison, but it's nicer than Maricopa County. It's nicer than the jail where Lori is now. And, but it's not a country. It's not a Martha Stewart type setup. I can promise you that. I'll ask again. I'll try to go in and see. Kelly says, do you think they'll be charging Melanie with anything? I have no idea. Rachel Smith, the prosecutor, doesn't think so. She said she's rarely seen it where they go after the principal person first and then the secondary character second. And that's what they've done here. They went after Lori first, but we'll see. How come Lori's first two husbands were never interviewed by investigators? Linda says they are the only ones alive, and couldn't they have been provided investigators with valuable information on Lori? Well, I don't know. Maybe they were interviewed by investigators. We've reached out to them. One was very kind but didn't want to talk, and then I couldn't find the other one. If they're watching, have them. You can call me, you guys, and we'll talk. Did you feel evil in the room when you were interviewing her? Did she scare you at all? She didn't scare me, and I didn't feel evil in the room. Just being honest, neither did Erica or Jordan. It felt like we were talking to someone who had issues, to be nice, but I'll tell you where I felt evil was Chad Daybell's house. That place, I don't want to ever go back there. It could have been too. We were on adrenaline, and I don't know, with Lori, if we would have stayed longer, how it would have been. But yeah, I didn't feel evil. I just was there to kind of do the job and was in work mode. Bonnie, do you believe anything she said? I believe some of what she said. I think you'll know what I believe, what she said, and you will know what you believe, if you believe it, what she said or whatnot. Does Lori and Chad's quote church, which is not the FLDS, which is not the LDS church, still have followers and people that still believe in them? Nancy says, not that I know of. I think there are still people that read Chad's books because they're still on the market, but I don't believe that there are people that still follow their beliefs. Julie says, I may have missed this, but my assumption is that Alex is the one that killed both of the kids. Is that correct? The other question is, I know Tammy was convicted of conspiracy for Tammy Daybell, but is the assumption that Chad is the one that strangled her, or did Alex? Good question. I think the assumption is that both of them were there. There's not 100% certainty, but Alex's phone was at the church the night that Tammy died, the church near their home, and it stayed there. And so the thought is, for a while, the thought is that Chad could have picked him up. They could have gone back to the house. They could have killed Tammy there, both of them, because she had to be held down and then asphyxiated with the both of them. So yes, Alex killed both of the kids. We can assume that. I think that everybody kind of believes that he was doing the dirty work and then went and buried them on Chad's property. Lori says she doesn't know that they were buried there. I don't know if that's true or not. Jean, is there any receiving mental therapy in this? Is there any I don't know if you mean for me or Lori. Lori said she's going to counseling on the interview. I don't know if that's true. I know that multiple experts in the state hospital north diagnosed her with hyper-delusionosity with a religious fascination. And, but she was still competent for trial. Why do you think Lori agreed to the interview? Good question. That's from Kaylee. Kaylee, I think Lori, I don't know. I don't know. I think she thought, as you saw there with the whole Noah's Ark, Evan Almighty thing, that maybe she feels she needs to teach me, prepare me, get me on the boat. I mean, I don't know. And maybe she felt too, to bring it full circle. That is a question I did not ask her. It's a good question. Good question. Okay, I think that's it for the questions tonight. We've gone way over. Thank you. Here is where you can find me, where I post updates and photos. And you can find me on my reporter page, Nate News Now on X, my Instagram page, and East Idaho News YouTube. Again, if you haven't subscribed, we'd love for you to subscribe. And we'd love for you to keep in touch with us. And we'll be back tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, with a little bit more from the interview. Sorry for the technical problem, but we'll have it tomorrow, as well as that other piece and reaction from Jordan and Erica and so much more. Thank you all for watching. Have a good night. Questions at eastidahonews.com if you have any questions. See ya.